no one likes a hashtag ad. People like brands in the thing where like you don't feel like you're being like sold to, but you are. And
you're
like
entertained.
You're like, I want to be like Rone. I want to be like Big Cat. I want to be like Kate. Like you want to be like the person you're watching versus like a hashtag ad.
Okay, it is Thursday, August 11th. I'm Erika, the CEO of Barstool Sports. This is my podcast. It's called Token CEO. Here's what we're doing today. We have the boardroom, so I'll give some updates just in terms of what's happening in my world, what I'm thinking about. We'll do Q&A as always. We have 3 really talented people joining us. So Rone from Content, he's been on before, he's joining. We have MB Gambke, who runs our partnerships team and really drives all brand integration for us. And then we have one of our star salespeople, Ryan McDermott, on for the first time. I thought we had a great conversation, and hopefully people will take some good things away from it. Mostly I take away that we have some awesome, super talented, caring people here.
All right, so let's start with the boardroom. What's going on? I had the PLL board meeting yesterday, which was awesome. I thought, shout out Mackenzie, biggest PLL fan ever, just sponsored by PLL. Too bad you're not wearing any PLL today. That's actually a moderate tragedy. So it was awesome. Mike Kearns was on it. It was the first time I've been on a board with Mike Kearns outside of our own. So that was exciting. I thought Mike and Paul Rabel did an awesome job. They have so much integrity. They care so much about the league. They care about the sport. They're so earnest. I actually spent half the meeting just texting Kearns being like, these guys are too nice. They're just so deferential. They got to get some fuck you mojo going on in the PLL. And the only reason I say that is I think their league is at this really interesting point in its time where they will either look for consensus with all of the people and players and parties in their ecosystem, or they will look for momentum and traction. And I was talking to them after the meeting, and I think one of the things that really propelled Barstool to grow so fast is that we did not spend a lot of time looking for consensus. We actually didn't care for consensus. Now, a league with investors and partners and other leagues and club teams, like it's way more complicated. It's a way more diffuse power structure. But, I think one of the things that I really took away from it was, one, just how thoughtful they are about what they're building. 2, how special it can be. 3, just what an incredible vehicle this would be to make lacrosse greater. They are so committed to not having lacrosse be an elitist sport. And then you go look at the club circuit and the club infrastructure, and it's become so elitist. It's so expensive. It's not inclusive. And you think about growing a sport and making money from a sport, they're not necessarily the same thing. They're not driven by the same intentions. And I really appreciate how much they feel committed to growing the sport. I also feel like there comes a moment where you have to be a killer, and you have to be a killer about growing your team, your business, your sport, your company, whatever that may be, your life. And, I just wish that for them. Sometimes whenever I'm in a board meeting, I have to caveat that I'm from the pirate ship and that we tend to probably be too aggressive or overly aggressive. But then, I look at the results and I think to myself that there's times and places where that works. So obviously there's a time for consensus, and obviously there's a time for aggression, and it's just about figuring those out and picking your spots. So great PLL board meeting this week. Really awesome article today in The Source about Wallow and Gilly. So I don't know if people have read that. We should share that. It's awesome. They are so special. So Gilly and Wallow did an interview with The Source about like what makes $1 Million tick. What is the brand about? They talk a lot about the Barstool difference and the importance of giving money back to the Philadelphia community and the community that they grew up in. Gilly had a funny line, which is he called Dave the white Gilly, which was great. The Caucasian Gilly. The Caucasian Gilly. He called Dave the Caucasian Gilly, which was very funny. That'd be a good shirt, the Caucasian Gilly. But I loved what they have to say. I love what they stand for. So that's exciting, and to see them get some shine. Deion Sanders had a birthday this week, so that's other big news. Deion's going to be joining us back this fall for the Pro Football Show. So we just finished that part of our partnership. So we're excited about that. What other things are going on? It's Grit Week. So the PMT guys are out west. They were touring the Coors factory. They had one of their biggest interviews in history, which is Dan's nemesis, Aaron Rodgers. It's so awesome. I think back to 5 years ago or even 6 years ago when the idea of getting access to a quarterback, period, let alone Aaron Rodgers, would have been almost unheard of and so aspirational that it was not even possible to be attainable. And now here we are. The other thing is that, Aaron Rodgers is then going on Bussin' with the Boys. So like, not only do we have Aaron Rodgers, we have Aaron Rodgers twice. So I'm excited for PFT and Big Cat and Hank and that entire team. PENN had its earnings last week. They've changed their name to PENN Entertainment. I'm excited about that. I think it's a good change. PENN National Gaming doesn't really describe what Jay and that team is trying to build. They have media brands like Barstool or The Score. They have a technology platform, which is the sports book and part of what The Score will build for them in the future. So they have the casino business, which is obviously highly profitable, and they run that better than anybody. So it's exciting to see PENN step into the future. They have a new logo. Jay and I were laughing where, Jay had sent it. Jay's very good about this, where he just makes sure he checks the boxes before he goes into the meeting to be sure that he has, speaking of consensus and alignment, so he has that. And after the earnings call, I was like, hey, that's great. The stock was up a little bit. You could clearly see Jay advocating for PENN's strategy, which is to grow a business profitably, unlike a lot of our other competitors. And he was telling me that Dave's only text about the brand was like, I don't hate it. And Jay was like, shrug, and I'm like, that's basically a ringing endorsement from Dave Portnoy. So congratulations, he didn't hate it. We have a new head of sales, which we'll talk about in our interview. So Matt Berger joins us from House of Highlights and Bleacher Report. Prior to that, he was at Comedy Central, comes highly recommended. I'm excited to see what he'll do here. I think we've made so much traction in the last year of putting the work in and putting the effort in to uncover what's working in our system, what's not working in our system, what could be better in our system, who do we need, what kind of players do we want on the field. I think one of the things that happens at companies is you just start to organize around people versus organize around what the business needs, and you kind of avoid solving things because of people versus solving what the business needs. And I feel really good about Matt joining. I think he'll have a great impact, and I'm hopeful for it, and ready to support him in it. And it was funny, I was talking to Gaz yesterday. 51%, I think, of all of our social video views comes from TikTok, which is pretty amazing. 0% of our third-party revenue on social clips comes from TikTok. 43% of our third-party revenue comes from Snapchat, which is 1% of our views. So if you think what we could do if we could monetize the 51% of our views, that's pretty incredible. And then you think about what do we need to grow that 1% of views on Snapchat to 5% of our total views. And I think one of the things I'm really focused on right now, or kind of chewing on, is how do we start to get eyes for what's happening in our company and what's happening in our content, and so that we can make better decisions around it. I think a very obvious thing looking at that is, how do we make more Snapchat shows, right? That's a very obvious conclusion. And how do we get a TikTok monetization strategy? But I think one of the things that happens, and it's happening here a little bit, is everybody's so busy running around, preparing the reports, talking about the thing, setting up the meeting, coming out of the meeting, taking notes from the meeting, all that shit, that people forget to put their eyes on what really matters. And what really matters in this case, when we're talking about video, and I'm very bullish on Barstool being a video company, is how do we have more video on Snapchat that we can monetize very well? How do we have monetization on TikTok, which our consumers consume very well? So I think those are the things we need to start doing more of, and I'm eager for us to get the right people in place where they can make that impact. I think sometimes you kind of vacillate between wanting to hire for strategery, or you want to hire for people who can execute. And we kind of have this unique place where the best people here are strategic, but they're able to execute very, very well. And, my hope is that Burger does that. But I also think we need those type of roles in finance. We need those type of roles in commerce. Like, we need those type of roles all across the business. And that's something that we're in the middle of right now. Like, we had a big commerce meeting this week. And what's interesting, and we'll get into this in a little bit with the sales interview, is what I like about sales is if you're a sales director, your number's up on the board every single week. What'd you close? How big is your gap to goal? Basically those two things. How much money have you booked? How big is the gap? And every week we look at every single person on the sales team with those two metrics. Now, some people might say that that's harsh. Some people might say there's caveats that you should put all around it. Our salespeople whose numbers aren't great, obviously caveat the hell out of that. But it also makes it very binary. Like, are you performing or are you not? And I think one of the things we haven't totally locked on for the rest of our company is, how do we just have those type of metrics? Are we producing at the volume and level we should? Are we monetizing at the volume and level that we should? If we're not, what do we do about it? And that's what I really like about Barstool. I like that about this culture. I like that about what I've been able to bring here, is that it's that kind of like, what's the problem? Let's solve it. Let's do something about it. What's the opportunity? What do we need to do to try to go get it? So I think we need to keep doing more of that. And I think we need the type of people here. We did an exercise this week where all of my leads, we talked about their top people. We talked about the top person in their group. We talked about the best up-and-coming person in their group, and we talked about who was a flight risk. And to be honest, I think those are the three things you need. Like, who do we need to reward? Who do we need to keep an eye on and grow? And who do we need to plan for that they may ultimately leave, or prevent them from leaving, entice them to stay here? And it's that kind of view that I think, if you put that to your business, if you put that to your project, if you put that to your team, if you put that to your partnerships, I think that can really, really net out. I think that can really, really pay off. I think a lot of times, and I see this is, I think businesses spend a lot of time, executives spend a lot of time politicking, it's conversations, it's politics, it's alliances, and it's I hate that stuff. The more I'm exposed to it, the more I'm I literally hate that shit. And I always want to be in a place where I can execute and we can execute. So those are the things that are going on here. Other things that I'm watching, Overtime raised $100 million. So for anyone who follows sports media, I think Overtime's a really interesting company. They've got a great bunch of execs there. Rich Kalachi's there. Content Cone, Mark Cohn, who came out of Barstool, is there. I think they're doing a lot of really neat stuff, especially in the high school space. They've created, I think it's called Elite. They've created a high school basketball league. It guarantees high schoolers $100,000 and another $100,000 in college expenses. They've got big time investors, which I don't usually care about. That doesn't matter. But I think it's interesting to think about a league coming out of a media company. And I think they've done a really good job of that. And it'll be exciting to see where they go with it. Okay, so then last up, obviously this week, Serena Williams announced that she's retiring after the US Open. I mean, Serena Williams is just a beast, a formidable, formidable player. I think she's the top 2 paid player in the world, which means that if she retires, there's really only one highly paid woman in the world. It's probably her sister. We went through this about a year ago. We looked at this. Anyway, so congratulations to Serena. What I like is that Serena's hey, I was, a monster on the court. I was so successful. She's strong. She's beautiful. She's smart. She, destroyed her competition. She did it over a number of years. She won so many titles. But she's hey, I have other passions in my life. I have other things that I want to pursue, and I'm going to open up to find the time to do those. I think the more time, the older I get anyways, the more I realize that if you don't clean the things that are at the bottom, there's a Rumi quote, which I realize is getting this podcast into a cheesy place, but there's a Rumi quote that if you don't clear out the brown leaves, the green leaves can never come in. And I think that's exactly right. And, credit to her for seeing her future and going after it. So that's kind of the boardroom. Those are my random miscellaneous thoughts. Let's talk about Zingeroo. So if you're looking for something random and miscellaneous to do instead of talking aimlessly about nothing and everything, you could get Zingeroo. Zingeroo is an all-in-one trading app that makes investing competitive, social, and educational. If you think you know the stock market better than your friends, you can prove it on Zingeroo. It's the market's first competitive trading app. Zingeroo is an all-in-one trading app that makes investing competitive, social, and educational. You can trade and you can compete in one app, the same app. You can win up to thousands of dollars in EFTs. Securities offered by Z Squared Securities LLC, member FINRA SIPC. If you download the Zingeroo app in the App Store, they will give you $25 to start your trading week, and you can join the Barstool Premium Zone on Zingeroo. One of the things I wanted to talk about today was being overwhelmed, because one of the things I see here in people who work at Barstool, and I also see it with the boards that I sit on, both at WWE and at PLL, is that it can be really easy to feel overwhelmed. I think even the most accomplished, senior, lauded executive can feel super overwhelmed. I've found, at least in my experience, which is not much and fairly small, that even at like really big moments when you're supposed to be on top of it all and you have everything, sometimes you just feel really overwhelmed. So even in moments where you're experiencing great success, it can feel daunting. It can feel overwhelming, all you need to do to keep it. And then in the case of when you're navigating through crisis, that's also very overwhelming in more of a negative sense, but it's really the same feeling in both places. And I think it's really easy to feel overwhelmed. And you kind of have to bury that feeling. But that was something I wanted to talk about in the Q&A. So our first Q&A is, in order to prevent feeling overwhelmed, how can you manage up in an environment where your manager works all the time? Guilty. Meaning that they'll send out emails and Teams messages over the weekend when they're not emergencies and could wait till Monday. I'm what I'd like to call a recovering workaholic, good for you, and I strive to make sure my team understands a healthy work-life balance. But the emails coming through and the team's messages give the unintentional pressure and anxiety that we need to respond back during our off time. I totally get this. I am very, very, very guilty of this. I don't know that I'm a reformed workaholic, but I have identified that I have a workaholic problem. I'm trying to reform. So look, when I was at Yahoo and Microsoft and even Demand Media, it was like a go, go, go type of culture. Demand Media in particular was very go, go, go. It was 24/7. Barstool is very go, go, go. I also think there's this unhealthy culture that I really saw at AOL and at Yahoo, which is kind of passive aggressive, like Sunday night scaries. Like there was a prize, or there was a perception that the more you put out work on Sunday night, the more dedicated you are, and the more the more successful you're going to be, the faster you'll get promoted, the more money you'll make. So, in the case of having a workaholic manager, personally, I think a really good thing to do would be to just go up to the person, go sit at their cube, go sit with them in their office and say, what's your expectation of responsiveness from me? If someone were to come up to me and ask me that, I would say, look, if it's an emergency, I'll let you know it's an emergency and I need your help in responding and being available. If it's not an emergency and I'm sending something off hours or on a Saturday morning or late at night, my expectation is that you'll get into that in the next business day. But I think that's a good question to ask, because then you'll get a read on, frankly, how rational the manager is. If your manager is like, I don't care what time of day it is, what day of the week it is, if I send you something that could be inane or really important and I expect you to respond to it, I think that's a good indication that this may not be the right manager for you, and this might not be the right culture for you. I don't have any issue. I think people work and think at different times. I tend to think when I have a lot of downtime, there's like a big joke here, like tarmac Erika. Like if I'm sitting on the tarmac, I will blast out like 70 things.
Also train.
The train, like downtime. I know, poor Daniela. I know Daniela knows that I'm on the 7:50 train because it's 7:52. It's like, but then I'll leave her alone the rest of the morning. So I respect that people have different times of day when their work comes out, when their communication comes out. My thing is like, just have a shared expectation about what the response rate should look like. I don't like it. I don't want to work all weekend. I work hard all week. I don't want to work all weekend. I don't want to be responding to emails on a Saturday afternoon. And I don't want a boss that expects that of me. But if you're getting the feeling that your boss has a different work style than you or a different pace than you, I think a really healthy thing to do would just be to address it, to get a readout, an honest readout on, is this something that you can work with or live with, or is this something that's never going to change? And then I think you'll have a decision to make in terms of, is this an environment you can thrive in, or is this an environment that you need to move away from? So second question on this, how do you make a professional/legitimate case to your boss that you are overwhelmed because the actual workload is too much, as opposed to one's anxiety or personal emotional load being to blame? So there's a lot of cases when the workload is too much, right? There's a lot of cases of burnout that are driven by what's going on in your personal life, that's driven by how you're wired and what type of environment you need to feel successful or to thrive. There's a lot of burnout that's driven by office toxicity and relationships, but very often burnout is just strictly driven by the fact that you have to work 24/7. We had this on Gaz's team in particular, where Gaz's guys and girls, but mostly the guys who worked on the social accounts, they had to work all night, every night, all weekend, every weekend. At basically any time live sports were on, they were expected to be on. And it was just untenable. It was too much. They never took a weekend off. They never took an after work night off. They were still in the office at 9 a.m. the next day. Like, it was a recipe for disaster. Most of those guys are still here, which is incredible. A lot of those guys aren't, and I understand why. So I think in making the legitimate case, the first thing you need to do is to not have an emotional conversation. It's not about your feelings. It's not about your personality. Don't use the word work-life balance. What I would do is to quantify the workload. I would say, hey, we're getting this many TPS report requests a day. We're expected to make this many widgets a week. Whatever the thing is, quantify it. The second thing is articulate where you're falling short because of the volume. You're not able to do as quality a job as possible because of this volume. So the second thing is to articulate what is being sacrificed because of this volume. 3, talk about what is the downstream consequence for partners, other internal players, your team, the boss, whoever. You got to articulate what the negative consequence is. And then I would make a recommendation, which is, hey, I think we need to add more resources, or we need to cut back on XYZ about the work. You need to cut back the work. And honestly, lay it out that way of, if we're going to continue to do this volume of activity, I really would advocate, if we're going to keep this volume of activity and we expect this quality, I would really advocate for adding 1 or 2 more people. I think that's a super calm, rational way to do it. Or you could say, hey, if we want to maintain this level of quality, we're going to have to cut back the volume to be able to achieve it, because the situation we're in right now is untenable. So that's how I would lay out that conversation. And I think it's pretty rational, and I would bet that something good will come out of it. All right, next question. I've been at the same company for 7 years. I've worked my way all the way up to be a VP of sales. Then we got a new CEO. Dun, 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 a 70-year-old man from Birmingham, Alabama. Yikes. I have a very different mindset than him, and it's safe to say that the last thing he wants is a 28-year-old female in a position of power. He posted the VP position outside of the company, knowing that I was in line for it, and hired another older man for the spot. So basically, I just need to know how to position myself as a young woman with plenty of talent into a top corp position. I'm thinking leaving the company would be the only way to move up. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were. Okay, don't make assumptions. Making assumptions makes an ass out of you and me. Everybody says that. look, this guy could be a total douchebag and he's sexist and old school and he wants a carbon copy version of him to run sales. Or he could be super open and he just doesn't know you and he doesn't know what your skills are and he doesn't know what you're capable of. So I wouldn't make the assumption either way. If you give it a good shot and you go in and sit with your CEO and say, hey, I've been here this long. This is what I've accomplished. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I can't wait to do here. And this is the results I'm able to drive. Go have that conversation. You have absolutely nothing to lose. In fact, if you end up leaving, that conversation is a great way to kind of pilot your pitch when you go think about another company. But give the guy a chance, right? Go articulate who you are, what you're capable of, what your potential looks like, and why you're an invaluable part of his staff. Give him the chance to respond to that. He may say, hey, 28-year-old girl, I love your initiative. The spot is yours. Or he may say, you know what? I'm an old sexist white guy from the South and I really would prefer another old sexist white guy from the South, and you're fucked. You don't have a job. But you have nothing to lose by having that conversation. And I wouldn't assume that he's one way or the other. Go see for yourself what he's like. Ask him what he values. Ask him what he wants from the person in this role. Ask him if he has any concerns about your candidacy. Ask him if he has any concerns about your performance. Ask him about people who he's thought have been really successful and, other people you should emulate or go look to model your career off of. Like, go have the conversation. If it turns out that this manager doesn't like you or doesn't believe in giving women opportunity or doesn't believe that you're well suited for the role, then definitely go leave, go interview at other places. But I wouldn't be preemptive and do it without having the benefit of the conversation.
So, regarding the being overwhelmed,
yeah,
what was the first time that you had to draw a line or kind of set a work boundary, and how did you realize that you had to get to that point? Like you personally.
I was never very good at boundaries in general. I'm working at being better at boundaries. I was very stressed. When I was at Demand Media, the CEO was very dynamic. He was very captivating. He was an exceptional motivator, and he made you believe. Like, he really made you want to work so hard and made you want to forego all your boundaries. I think we're a little bit like that here, to be honest with you. Like, you just get so caught up in it. You don't, oh my God, that just scared me. You don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to fall short on anything. You want to earn Dave's respect or mine or whatever. You want to impress if you have a company culture that's about excelling and pushing the boundaries, it's hard to create boundaries because no one has them, really. For me, when I left AOL and I was at a startup, I did not know how to manage investors. I was unused to it. I wasn't confident in it. It made me feel small, and the only thing I've ever been able to fall back on was just working more. Like, I'll just work harder. And I didn't push back, and the less and less I pushed back, the more and more people creeped in and asked for more. So it almost became this debilitating situation. And I think the way I finally got out of it was to say enough. I was like, this is not, do you run this company or do I run this company? I had to have that type of conversation, which was really hard for me, but it was productive because then I think something that happens is when you push back that first time after not pushing back a lot, people tend to react and they're like, oh God, I went too far. But I think it's really hard. I don't think I've ever been really good at it, to be honest with you. I also think now, one of the things I'm learning now is that, it's kind of what MB mentions in the interview, which is you're so habitually trained to respond, or there's some insecurity in you, like the successfully insecure thing. You're so habitual about responding. Sometimes not responding, nothing happens. Nothing bad happens if you wait to respond. I've gotten much better about that. When I get home from work now, I really don't add more work until the next morning when I get back to doing work. And at first it gave me a lot of anxiety. I wasn't checking my phone all the time. Like I leave my phone down now, and I used to leave my phone up. But you start to do it, and then you realize the like sky doesn't fall, and you don't, spontaneously combust, and good things can happen in your regular life. So let's talk about Upside. All right. Upside lets you earn cash back on your everyday purchases like gas, groceries, and restaurant purchases. I'm starving right now from lunch, so I would like to use Upside so that I can save money and buy lunch. If you want to get started, you want to save money on everyday purchases, here's how you do it. You download the free Upside app. You can use my promo code, which is Token, and you can get 5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Zero chance lunch in New York City costs $10. Lunch in New York City is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's like $30.
That Uber money is gone in like a week.
Yes.
That we get.
It's like a salad. What is a salad?
A salad in New York City is like $22.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Anyways, what you do next, so you have Upside, you're actually going to save money on lunch. You claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You just check in at the business, you pay as usual with a credit card, and then you get paid for your activity. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn up to 3 times more cash back with Upside. Download the free Upside app and use promo code Token to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code Token. Go download the free Upside app now. Next up, we have MB, Ryan, and Rone. They're talking about how we bring brands to life on Barstool Sports, what we've done with Mattress Firm and other brands in particular, brands that don't work here in situations that didn't go well. And that's about it. So we'll kick to our interview with MB, Ryan, and Rone. Okay, so Rone we've had on before, but Ryan and B, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do and how long you've worked here?
Yes, okay, I'm MB. I lead our partnerships and brand integration team. I've been here for 5 years, not to like stop. Ryan and I have been here for the same exact amount of time, like 2, almost like the day.
We started the same week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And who found you? How did we find you? We found you from Octagon?
No,
we found you from
through the
Danahy's. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Ryan McDermott.
You're from the Jay Danahy.
Yes.
You're both Jay Danahy
I'm
generation.
from the Jay Danahy days.
Yeah.
I've been here for 5 years, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm our VP of Sales, responsible for bringing in revenues to the company.
Okay, I like that. And what do you love about Barstool and what do you hate about it?
I love, it sounds so cliche, but like every day is different. Like you can't guess what's going to happen here. Like it's just, you're dealing with so many different things. I also think we work on so many different pieces of content or like different activations that keeps things interesting. And what I like most about it, and I tell this to like everyone, is like there's no rules. Like we kind of like create our own rules. There's no like you don't have like a playbook like you would at like done. The NFL where it's like you got to do like XYZ. It's like you just get to create it from scratch, which is awesome.
Yeah, so I love being able to sell Barstool because it's something that I've been consuming since I was, late high school, early college. And so being able to sell something you're passionate about is like awesome. Like if I had to sell like ad tech, I'd want to kill myself. So
right.
Yeah. So like being able to sell like Rone is awesome, right? And being able to sell so many different like exactly.
Sell Rone.
Being able to sell like so many like cool, unique ideas. Just like the cool, unique stuff that we're able to do. And like I remember like the first week I was here, sat down with you, Erika, and you're like, you can sell whatever you want and do whatever you want here. And that really like rings true 5 years later.
That's awesome.
Neither of them said what they hate though.
I know they
I haven't gotten
What do you hate, Ray?
sorry. Kidding.
How much time do we have? What do you
how long
hate?
is this podcast? What do I hate the most? I think sometimes like what I hate the most is just like how on we are all the time.
Yeah.
Like I feel like until this year, it's like, it was very hard to like ever be turned off.
You took a vacation this year.
I did for the first time.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I like.
Did you actually take a vacation?
I did. I like made an effort to like not like look at my emails or like my Slacks like while I was like out and about, and then I would scroll through and be like, they're fine.
Yeah.
So I think that was like probably what I hated the most, but like as I've kind of grown up here and like our team's kind of grown, it's gotten easier to like not be on all the time or like feel like you have to be on all the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the one that affects me day to day is just having that conversation about brand safety with Barstool, which is obviously something that we're always going to have to combat. But I just wish people actually saw what we do here, the people who are here, because it's the furthest thing from it. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to make people laugh, like we're an escape for people. And when I'm out in market and you actually like talk to people, they're like, we love Barstool. We love everything about it. So it's just breaking through and educating people. But that's the one annoying part. Yeah.
What do you love and hate, Rone?
Oh man, I
What, do you think you were off the hook?
Yeah.
Come on.
Rone's like daydreaming.
Just thinking of no, but I love the freedom, same as Ryan. Like I love that like I'm kind of the master of my own destiny. And one of the things I hate is when people don't buy in to like whether it's an idea or like the like concept of Barstool in general, and that's whether it's people from the outside or people from the inside. It's just like, come with me on the journey, and I'm pretty sure that like you will come out at the other end of the journey being like, oh, I see what you're doing there. Like that is funny. That does make sense. It is like a good cohesive like idea. Concept, corporation, like any level of it. Like I just want people to buy in and be like, hey, we're actually have thought this through, and it does make sense.
Do you find yourself selling to other people internally?
I think that, I mean,
like cajoling them to do something?
If you like break it down even to a deeper level than that, it is like I do want to be like liked, so like I do like kind of like find myself selling to people in that way, but like in some ways like I've kind of grown to like at least a little bit of a comfortability in myself where I can be like take it or leave it. But it's like I do really want people to like see things from my point of view, because I believe in my like and our intentions being as good as they are. Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to give Rone some sales tips, right?
Yeah, give me some sales tips, because
I agree with Rone. I was gonna say like I think when people like buy in, and when I say people I mean like partners buy in and give us like the trust, like it comes out so much better. It's very obvious when like our teams are so invested in what we're doing, versus like if we're being kind of like pushed in a certain direction, it's just very different.
Given it, sorry, Ryan, I do want you to give sales trips to Rone in a second. But give an example of a brand that's really bought in and how that worked. You don't have to say the brand that hasn't, but give an example on either side.
I would say, I mean, this is going to be obvious, but it's the first thing that I can think of with like Coors Light, for instance, with like Grit Week. It's like the trust is there of like they just know the Pardon My Take guys are going to make funny video content for them, and it's going to be like awesome. They're going to go see their brewery and do their whole shtick there, and there's no like very serious guardrails of like, actually we want your content to be this. Like they want PMT to be PMT, and they want to be along for the ride, and I think that's what like shows a lot of success. It's very topical in my mind because it's happening today.
Yeah, it's happening right now. But they're like, don't drink and drive, don't get inebriated, do have a lot of fun with the mountains.
Yes, exactly. But like, please like tell everyone that the mountains are in fact blue. Like that's kind of, they like have that trust, and we've done a lot of cool like merch collabs, and they're like, we love it, send us some. Like that's kind of where we're at in the partnership, which is like an awesome place to be.
Okay, and what's an example of a brand who doesn't?
You said you weren't going to ask me that.
We didn't say the brand.
You were going to have Ryan give Rone.
No, give a failure.
I would say like I'm trying
like
to think
what's the worst partnership you've worked on here, and give
Damn.
a story from it.
Damn.
Can Ryan give him a sales tip and I'll think about it?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll give it a sales tip. So like, one of the things that I love the most about Barstool is that I've been able to be so honest with like how things are going to work here. And so for you, like if you're trying to get people or anybody to buy into something, there's a little bit of trust that has to come into play here. So like for me, I'm able to tell a brand just straight up like that's not going to work. In my previous role when I was at CBS Sports, I'm just competing against ESPN, NBC, Fox over like CPM rates, right? It's like you have the same audience,
the
product is the same, and so I'm just like haggling over like pricing. Whereas here I'm like, hey, like this is the best recommendation, this is the best like franchise, talent, audience. What you originally wanted is going to fall flat for your brand. So I would never have the ability to be that open if I wasn't at Barstool. And I think it's just made me a better like person, a better seller. And especially when we have like issues that go on, I can take off the like Ryan sales hat and just be Ryan McDermott. Like, hey, this is how I feel about this. Like, just trust me. It's all going to work
Yeah,
out.
trust is definitely, I feel like, the key word in there. Like a brand trusting you to represent them in the way that they would want to be represented, then they can kind of like abandon the like oversight, this like always like constant vigilance of like being like, are they doing the right thing? It's like if the trust is there, then it's like then you're in good hands with us.
Yeah, and I think it's natural for like brands to be a little bit nervous with us when they're starting off. And then once like we do our job, we adhere to like certain brand guidelines. They see us in action, they see the final result. They're like, all right, like we trust you guys now.
I would say too, it's like they're buying our audience too, and like no one knows our audience like our talent do and we do. So it's like getting to that level of trust of like, okay, your audience is gonna like and you're gonna put us in a positive light. Like that's where we need.
That's where we do our best work. Yeah. It's so funny. You know what I love when I got here? So I had worked for Yahoo and Microsoft, and at Yahoo and Microsoft, and in most media companies, the editorial people, so the Rones hate the Ryans. The editorial people hate the salespeople.
You guys want to fight right now? Wrap around. What are we doing?
Let's vote. Mine's strong.
December.
I would actually put money on me and MB. And it was so frustrating to me because one, it was the editorial people truly did not like when brands engaged with the content. Like that was one of my biggest things when I first met Dave before I even took the job, was how he thought about that, because fighting with a content person to get a brand to be showcased is an exhausting, frustrating, stressful fight, because in the back of your head, you're like, I got to make the money. And in their head, they're like, I got to make the content have integrity. And here, what I really love is that it is a partnership where, Rone, you're like, I have an idea to how to bring Mattress Firm to life. And the idea is something that no one would have ever thought of. And you're like, great, I'll take that idea. I'll borrow my trust that I have with them to get them to buy it. And I like that there's no lines that way.
I think what separates us is that a majority of the sellers, if not all of them, like we really care about the Barstool brand. And so we don't want to put an advertiser in a position where it just comes off like so forced.
Yeah.
It's basically an advertorial, and it's not doing anything for anybody. Yeah. It's pissing off the talent. It's pissing off the brand. The audience is not going to like
Nobody
it.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
So our whole pitch is like, hey, we have really good content. Like, let us come up with creative ways for your brand to integrate in a really like organic, seamless way. Whatever your message is, whatever your theme is, like let us do that. Like, let us do our job.
No one likes a hashtag ad. People like brands in the thing where like you don't feel like you're being like sold to, but you are. And you're like, I want to be like Rone. I want to be like Big Cat. I want to be like Kate. Like you want to be like the person you're watching versus like a hashtag ad.
Yeah. Okay, did you think, speaking of?
I did. So there's
I was going to forget.
No, I was waiting for you to come back and ask me. So it's actually like, if this goes like way back, and probably it was before we had our nice little exclusive vodka partner, but we worked with another one, and they were. But I'm on the mic. Yeah. Do you remember? Were you there for that? I couldn't even remember what we did, but there's like a trophy that's still like floating around that was like 3D printed that we did, and they were just very difficult to work with.
Okay.
And like,
what made them difficult?
Just it towed the line of like. They were dictating what our content should be.
Okay.
And like that's where
there was friction.
Yeah, there was friction, and like there wasn't like the open set of like here's our do's and do nots from the jump. It was like reactive, and it was like, well, we like filmed all of this already.
Okay.
And I think also with some brands, like media agencies getting involved, I think makes our jobs harder sometimes, because like they're advocating for a brand, which is great. That's their job, but it's not really what the brand is wanting.
Yeah, it's a big game of telephone tag.
Right, and it's like, can we all just like connect the dots so that like we're doing what we do so well, and the brand is like, yep, we're on board, versus like, well, let us just like zhuzh this and like send it along. It's like, it makes it a little bit harder, and I think, everyone's trying to prove their worth.
Yeah, you have to find the advocates on the agency side, on the client side, and then once you're on the same page, you can make some really good stuff together. I think like Raising Cane's is a great example where like the agency gets us, they like love our content, and they've been able to like push the clients to really like see that like vision forward.
So really quickly, we're going to take a quick break and talk about ShipStation because we're talking to the salespeople. And if I didn't do an ad in the middle of the salespeople conversation, then what good am I? What is ShipStation? ShipStation is a web-based order management and shipping software designed to make retailers exceptionally efficient at processing, fulfilling, and shipping e-commerce orders. I mean, imagine getting thousands and thousands and thousands of orders. So speaking of, if anyone wants to buy the Token CEO or my stuff on the Barstool Sports Store, you can. Once I get all those orders, I can use ShipStation and I can get those out to you lickety-split. ShipStation gives e-commerce sellers an easier way to manage shipping. You can take all the energy that goes into managing orders, choosing carriers, printing labels, and you can instead put that energy to growing your business or designing new t-shirts. You get deeply discounted shipping rates. They work with over 45 carriers. They work with over 300 platforms, including Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. And they automate processes like fulfillment and tracking so you can save time managing orders. If you sign up using code TOKEN, you can get a free 60-day trial at ShipStation.com. That's 2 whole months of stress-free shipping. Stress-free shipping is a tough phrase to say, and it's free to try. So go to ShipStation.com, click on the microphone at the top of the page, and type in TOKEN, and make ship happen. That's cute. All right, we're back to our interview. Okay, so let's talk about Mattress Firm. So, Rone, do you know the pitch for Mattress Firm?
What do you mean?
Give us like the ad read.
Oh, you know.
Oh, I mean, unjunk your sleep. Where's my camera?
Tell us about it.
I mean, Mattress Firm has helped me and everybody from the Most Dangerous Game Show unjunk our sleep to the point where people were living in the wilderness and then would come back to the Mattress Firm mansion and have such a restorative night of sleep that everybody else would be pissed off at them and jealous of them because of how well they enjoyed a Mattress Firm bed.
Not only that, but when they were in the mansion, then they didn't have to participate in the challenge.
I mean,
and they just sat there on the Mattress Firm
So
bed
they were
at
refreshed
the
and happy in
Yeah.
bed.
Yeah.
Only
because of Mattress Firm.
Exactly, yeah. Mattress Firm looked out in a crazy way being part of the Most Dangerous Game Show, Barstool's Most Dangerous Game Show. And that's like, the concept came together through exactly what they're talking about, the like kind of symbiosis between the content team and like the advertising world. Like we have a branded content team, so I had the idea of this thing, like it was just a very loose idea, but the Most Dangerous Game Show, kind of based on the book, like The Most Dangerous Game, the short story where they're hunting humans. And I took it to like Rob and Logan, who are like, I mean, these are people who I've grown to work really well with, because it's like, I know that these are the guys who get stuff done, because stuff will get done if there's a sponsor behind it. So as a content creator, if I have an idea that I want to get done, I want to have this idea sponsored. I want to make sure that this idea has the full backing of everybody at Barstool, so it's not just like kind of like fizzling off into like this half-assed idea. So I brought it to them, and then they just kind of like cultivated it and sat on it and turned it into this idea where it's like an awesome game show, but a game show where we're going to be able to integrate a brand into like the ethos of the game, the gameplay. It's not just like there's like a bed in the background
Brought
for one
to you
shot.
by-
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like every
not a logo
part of the
slap.
game. Yeah, it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's
You
like,
know what else I
I
appreciate?
say they become a character within
Yeah.
the show themselves.
yeah.
That's like, do you remember watching The Biggest Loser? Did you guys ever watch
yeah.
The Biggest Loser?
course.
And I felt like The Biggest Loser did a really good and terrible job of integrating brands like Ziploc. I remember they had all these products in the kitchen, and it was like, I'm gonna put my diet food in the Ziploc. And it was so heavy-handed that you're like, I get it, you're shilling Ziploc.
Yep.
And the thing that I like is like, unjunk your sleep is a great phrase. Like it's a
Great
good
phrase.
concept,
Yes.
it's in the zeitgeist, and then you make it funny, and to your point on the gameplay. How do you sell that? So, once Logan and Rob, also shout out to Rob L. So, you know what I love about Rob L. is, speaking of someone who just sells to people all day, so Rob L. does branded entertainment for us. So what he cares about is content for brands, which he then has to sell to you. And the way he's able to advocate and create like such a quality product around what a brand wants.
It doesn't feel like this ad
at
deal.
all. Like it's so. I really, he deserves so much credit.
Yeah, he's
but,
a wizard.
So he is a wizard. So when the wizards get this thing, then they give it to you, and you're like, this is how it could all come together, and then it lands in your lap, right?
Yeah. So with Mattress Firm, so they first partnered with us last summer. So they were part of Barstool Barn Burners, Chicklets Cup, which was Hockey Fest before that. And then they also bought into Dave Brooks, RIP. That didn't happen. So then we had to pivot.
Into what?
Dave versus Brooks.
Oh, shit.
Kepka.
And then they also bought
and
our
they bought into Arizona Bowl, which RIP. Didn't happen, right?
Dang.
Yeah.
But their whole thing is like
We'd prepped
last
a lot.
So
summer.
we had some money on the side.
Yeah. They're trying to make Unjunk Your Sleep part of like, the cultural zeitgeist, right? So
Do you remember their commercials during the Olympics last
Yep.
year? Like, it was I saw them a lot.
Yeah,
and, like,
they
that
were
was,
everywhere
like, when
last
they
summer.
first launched, like, Unjunk Your Sleep.
But America's got a sleeping problem.
Okay,
Unjunk Your Sleep.
This
with
company
Mattress
has a
Firm.
sleeping problem.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. So
See the bags under my
design.
eyes?
You
so
need a new mattress.
I do.
So the partnership was great last year, and there was definitely like some hesitancy to start, right? They were a little bit nervous with some of the things we were doing, but we got them to buy into it. One of the best things we did, and this is what's so great about Barstool, is that you find moments for a brand to really like take advantage of. Like Dana Beers was doing his balcony beds and drinking beers on the balcony, and we're like, hey, we haven't even started with Mattress Firm yet, but let's just do a drop off of a mattress for him. And just because they're like with us right now, let's make it happen. We made it happen. Dana was like so thankful for Mattress Firm doing it that it became like this awesome like social moment for them. And like last year, they're like, that was the best thing we did all summer. And we did
And we
Olympics
didn't charge them
partnerships.
for it, right?
No, it's just because they were like
They needed a
good partner.
mattress. They're lying on the
You just
balcony.
find,
And that's, I think, also to the Coors story, is that doing something with good intention just because Dana needed a mattress and it worked for a partner, I think that's also very rare in our business. I don't think you see a lot
It's
of
like
that.
the above and beyond. Like,
Yes.
we're always like thinking of like what makes sense for like these brands that like are always in our like ecosystem, and like, oh, this like one-off thing that Rone thought of, like that would be perfect for like this brand, and we're gonna like slot them in there and it's gonna be great, and like they're gonna love it, they're gonna appreciate it, they're gonna want to work with us more. It makes you guys happy because you guys have like partners to work with, and it just like it's you said symbiotic relationship. Yeah, that's what that is.
So as we're looking ahead for 2022,
23.
well, no.
Coming
This
into
was
this year.
21 coming
Yeah.
into this year.
It's like next year.
So we were looking at new opportunities for Mattress Firm because they had a lot of success with Chicklets Cup. We're like, oh, let's go bigger with Chicklets Cup. But they really wanted to like find something new, unique that was like more customized for them. And at the time, like Logan and Rob and MB were pushing our reality TV shows. And because of the success from last year with Barstool vs. America, surviving Barstool, now coming out with Most Dangerous Game Show, it's like our talent, like they have shitty sleep on all these shows. So it just makes so much sense.
It works.
And now we can create some like fun integrations for a brand. So then we work with MB and her team to come up with like good moments for the brand integrations, and then we're out pitching that to Mattress Firm and getting their buy-in so they can see our vision. And yeah, we had this theme for the whole summer. It was like the summer of junk TV. So it was Most Dangerous Game Show, Surviving Barstool, Cutting Stems, like all the Bachelor content, and then Jordan's Obsessed show. So it was a nice like tie-in to a theme that they wanted to
like
sell
our
in
reality
our
and
reality.
like and like commenting on other reality
Sure.
shows.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so it tied in really nicely
That's
for
great.
them, and that's how we were able to get it done.
It's actually funny. One thing you make me think of is that I get mad because you guys are so loyal to specific brands. Where like I'm trying to grow a big business. MV, we had a funny meeting yesterday.
We did.
So MV and MV and Rob Luton march, and they're like, we
March
need to
is a
meet.
stretch.
Oh, it was Rob was like, I need to come down and sit with you right now. So I was like, okay, bring it. I was on the commerce
Like
call.
brands, we need the guidelines.
So I was thinking that sales, I've been waiting for this moment where sales wants to price something stupidly, and I'm going to back Rob in commanding a high price for something. I'm like licking my chops for this, and I thought that's what
You
it was
thought
going to be.
I was going to be?
I didn't know. I didn't know what you were doing in it. And then it was, hey, this brand wants to come in, and this brand is competitive with another brand that we work with. And I was like, okay, great. Well, we obviously are going to do it. And MB is like, I don't know. I don't think we should do it. What about this brand? This is our brand. And it's you all fall in love with our partners. Like, it's the same, I get annoyed every year when we get it up to like renewal time, and I'm like, we haven't hedged our bets. Like, we haven't, we're so loyal to one partner, we haven't made room for another. Like, back in the day, AB was our partner, then AB went away, and it was like we had to build in other partners in that space. So I think it's...
Wait, so who won in the
I
meeting?
won.
I mean, is that a question?
I won. But
we were coming to ask the answer.
But it's an awesome quality. Yeah. I think you rarely find, because most salespeople are just selling a 30-second spot or a 15-second spot or a 5-second spot, and you're, to your point, just haggling over price. You don't feel any loyalty when you're haggling on price.
Yeah.
Right.
You do feel loyalty.
And I think that comes from the trust. I think
it's just we care, and we're putting our name, out there. And if
and we've been here for so long that like some partners we've worked with for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And also like it goes along with like talent that we've worked with for a really long time.
Yeah,
too.
and as Barstool has grown, like more franchises, more shows, more personalities, like
More
you're able to find more
swim
swim lanes, and we make it work.
The swim lanes. Love the swim lanes.
Love swim lanes. Good
Swim lanes.
Explain what a swim lane is. Do you know what a swim lane is?
I don't know.
All
I
right.
was about to ask.
Do you want to guess?
Yeah, can I ask
Yeah.
during this?
Yeah,
Because
you
you're saying
should
some
guess
phrases
what a swim lane is.
Is it like a vertical?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it?
Pretty
Yeah.
close, yeah.
I don't know. Is that right? I don't even know what a vertical
It's
is.
basically
Take alcohol. So I'm just using an example. So like Foreplay, they have one beer seltzer brand that's in their show. It's obviously truly hard seltzer. You're not going to find a competitive seltzer in that show.
But they can
because
have
it's like not authentic to
a beverage in a car and like are
Yes.
those
Correct.
swim lanes?
All-
Exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
those
But you couldn't have two cars.
Yeah, you couldn't
Right.
have two
Correct.
cars, yes.
Because that would be two swimmers in the same
That
lane.
was-
Two
everybody's
swimmers
going to run into each
Right.
other.
Against
Right.
the rules of
You
swimming.
can't
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
Chevy one day
Yeah.
and then Dodge the next day.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense.
Okay, last question is what do you think we can, Rone, what's next for you? So let's start there. What's next for you content-wise?
I mean, this fall, I think there might be a new podcast
Yeah.
that I'm part of. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
gonna
don't know.
happen.
Yeah, I think so. That's definitely something that's going to be a massive focus
Big.
of mine. I think that I'm going to try to continue these like brands that I've been working on, as far as like things like Neighborhood Eats and like the Nicest and stuff like that. All our good friends at Mamitas are really looking out for us.
Oh, we love the Nicest.
That's a brand that's really just bought in, and they're just like, hey, we trust you. So it's like I want to give them good content to keep that symbiotic relationship going.
Yep.
You've got a gambling show.
Yeah, we're doing a gambling contest that's going to be all over PENN properties. We have like 8 different competitions that we're going to be doing this like refined, like it's almost going to be like aesthetically kind of like the Most Dangerous Game show. I'm going to be coming out in a suit with like smoke and stuff like that, and try and make it feel real cool for all of our
Has
gamblers.
Wesley checked off on that? The smoke and everything?
I have my own smoke machine, so it's not even going to affect me.
Have smoke, we'll travel.
Yeah. We have obviously Son of a Boy Dad. We're going to keep on churning that out. Obviously the Yak every single day. We're going to keep on churning that out. Trying to build out the kind of reality universe as much as possible. Pitching lots of stuff for that. Just trying to be like tenacious about bringing tons of new ideas. Just like letting my imagination roam wild and just become a mad scientist back there and try and put some crazy stuff together.
Okay, I love it. And what's next for sales?
So we're currently entering our upfront season, which is where we're trying to get brands to buy into programming for 2023 and get a significant chunk of our revenue closed before we enter next year. So that's the biggest focus for us right now for the next few weeks.
And for my squad, it's like everything football is like high priority, which is why I was a little late.
I tried to avoid this.
So like obviously college football show is a huge priority. Pro football show is a huge priority. Sleep When You're Dead we're working on as well for our brand partners, and then finishing out our Barstool Classic season strong. And then as Rone said, kind of looking ahead to next year, like what we're doing for 2023 with reality, with different franchises, and then mix in, college basketball invitational, Arizona Bowl. So that'll all
Have
be...
we announced the basketball invitational?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that.
Yeah. So that'll
That's going to be great.
all be like priority coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a new boss.
I have a new boss, Matt Berger.
Yep.
He's coming over from
High
House
energy
of
guy.
Highlights.
Really?
Big
Talks
time
a lot.
energy.
Oh, huge.
Love him. He's going to be great.
That's
He's gonna be
great. Are you excited? How do you feel about having a new boss?
No, it's great. Listen, I've been through multiple bosses
Yeah.
here, and like I think what's great about Barstool is like you kind of create your own path here,
Yeah.
right? And we're one team, one dream.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to make sure.
What's
that-
your advice to other people who get a new boss?
advice?
Like, how are you managing it? You know what I was impressed by? So Matt Berger walks into the building yesterday. You know who the first person down there was? Becca. The guy hadn't even gotten in the door. He was like all sweaty from New Jersey Transit. And
'cause he's wearing
Becca
a
is
suit.
like, he was wearing a suit?
He had a suit jacket on.
Yeah,
You guys
suit
had a
jacket
bet
on.
about it, didn't you?
I told him the
He was wearing the same interview outfit, which I was also impressed by.
Yeah.
I think he's like a good
I
meat
think
and
it's
potato guy.
just be
Oh,
open to
definitely.
new ideas, right? He's going to have different perspectives, and
Center
we did.
AC down there was awesome.
And don't put a wall up.
Oh, sorry. This is your advice. Wait,
Yeah.
hold on. Let me
Yeah,
finish
yeah,
the story.
Sorry.
So Becca was like right in his face. Like, Becca's one of our salespeople, and I was like, that's a fucking hustler. Go girl. But anyways, okay, so you get a new boss. What's your advice?
Be open because he's going to come in with new perspectives, and
Yeah.
we're also going to tell him like, hey, here's like some of the stuff we've had
Yeah.
to kind of go through so that
Yeah.
he understands what he's getting himself into.
Yeah.
But also like, don't put a wall up.
Yeah.
Like, work together and collaborate, and at the end of the day, you're all trying to get to the same goal.
Yep. Well, we're excited for him. What do you think?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to like have someone new kind of like on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
I think you're excited because now you don't have like 30 people reporting to
Well,
you.
No,
That's
I'm very excited
Yeah.
because he had his whole thing is we move product, which I think is just a genius. I think that's exactly what makes us different. Is for all of the reasons of why you three are so special, and everyone else we mentioned is we definitively move product for brands, and I love that he got that. I
like his
liked being
background.
involved in sales, to be honest with you. Though. I like it.
Yeah, how was
Oh,
your
yeah,
experience
the
over the
Monday-
last couple of months?
The
with
Monday
us?
morning sales meeting is my favorite meeting of the week.
I want to come to one because I hear
live
it's like
for it.
stuff of legends.
Oh, it's so fun.
We have
Really?
a, we have a-
I
we have
never
a
miss
sales
that
meeting later
meeting.
today if you want to join.
Can I sit in or what?
I like it.
along.
It's like the finance guys get a little nervous and sheepish. They don't look at anybody in the eye, and then they're just
The
like
heads
going
roll
through
or
the-
what?
It's
No?
it's not a heads roll, but it's like it's the shot across the bow meeting.
Oh, okay.
Where we put everybody's numbers up all next to one another, and they're organized.
We got to start doing this
Yeah.
for the content
Oh,
floor.
totally.
Just wake everybody up.
The best
That's what
part
your
though
most
is
seamstress should be.
the finance guy who made it was colorblind. Who makes the spreadsheet is colorblind, so he didn't differentiate
Oh my
between
gosh.
red and green. So somebody would be absolutely murdering it, like crushing it, they'd be red, and so like you'd open the sheet and it's all red, and you'd be like, "What the fuck?" And then it was like, "Oh, Tony's colorblind." But I love sales for that. I think
Yeah.
there's something so. It's so black and white in
Very
really good
And,
ways.
it's competitive too.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
You want to shine.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for skipping your meeting, MB. Okay, so if you haven't already, check out the Barstool Sports store. Check out Most Dangerous Game, which is our most recent reality show that just wrapped. We're in the middle of filming Surviving Barstool right now. I walked into work yesterday, and Tico, Texas is in a gray bathrobe with gold necklaces just dangled everywhere and a Chanel shower cap. And honestly, I was like, oh, Tico's just at work early today. And Tico proceeds to pick me up, which is basically like having a wiry thing about half your size spin you around. She spins me around, and I'm like, what are you doing, Tico? And she's like, oh, I just woke up. I'm competing in Surviving Barstool. So it was very cute. So check that out when that comes out.
Wait, do you have a guess on who do you think's going to win?
Oh, I think Kim's going to win.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I want her to win, but
I definitely want Kim to
yeah.
win.
All right, that's cool.
My money's on Content Kim.
Okay.
Yep, I'm on Content Kim. So you can check that out when that comes out. That's basically it. So you can follow us. You can follow us on our social platforms, blah, 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 blah. And we'll see you back here next week, Thursday.